this video we are going to handle swapping of bags, because let's say that we have one bag here, a 20 slot bag, and we have another bag here which is an 8 slot bag, right? Well, we would like to be able to swap our bags around. Let's say we have the 8 slot bag equipped and would like to equip the 20 slot bag instead. Well, then we will have to click on the 20 slot bag and then click on the 8 slot bag to swap these two around. So when I click here, this one should actually change into a 20 slot bag instead of closing. So besides that, we need to take a few things into consideration. Let's say that I have my 20 slot bag equipped and I have an 8 slot bag here, and I pick up the 8 slot bag and swap these two around so that I switch out my 20 slot with an 8 slot bag. Well, in that case, I will have to make sure that there are enough space in the inventory to do that swap. Just as when we try to take a bag and dequip it, we will have to check if there's enough space to dequip it. Well, we have to do the same thing whenever we actually swap a bag. We need to make sure that there is enough space in the inventory after the swap has been done. Besides that, we will also have to handle the fact that we can pick up a bag and click on any of these slots just to equip it. So instead of just right clicking on it to equip it, we will also have to pick it up and then click on a button to equip. So to do this, we will have to create a new function inside our inventory script. So we already have some functions for adding some bags and removing bags right here. And I would like to add the new function just below those, because this new function we're going to create is actually going to what's called swap the bags around. So the function is going to be called swap bags. It's going to swap two bags for us. And we are going to have one bag, and that's the old bag, the one we are swapping with, and a new bag, which is the new bag we are equipping. Okay, so old bag is the one that is already equipped on our bag bar. The new bag is the one in the inventory we're swapping with that will be equipped. Okay, first of all, we need to know if we can swap these bags, and if it's like okay for us to swap them without losing any items, for example. So we're going to make an integer called new slot count. So this one is going to contain the amount of slots that will be available to us after the swap. So basically we actually have to create a new property to do this. So let's go to our properties in the top, and here's our empty slot count. Let's create a new one called total. My total slot count. So this is the total slot count in the inventory. This means that we are not taking into consideration which ones are full and which ones are empty. We're just counting the total amount of slots we have. So we're going to have a get here just to make sure that we can return whatever we want here. We're going to make a count of 0, and then we are going to start counting. We're counting by taking each bag in the inventory, which is contained in the bags list. Every time we have a bag, we calculate how many empty slots there are, or how many slots there are. So my bag script, let's see, my bag script dot my slots dot count. So we are running through all the bags in the inventory, and then we take all the slots on each bag, and we are adding the count to the count. So now if we have 3 bags of 20 equipped, we will have 60 a 60 count. Then return count. Okay, so now we can figure out what the total count is. So we can go back down to our function here, and we can start writing the code for swapping the bags around. Okay, so the new slot count is actually equal to my total. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. My total slot count minus, well, what do we need to calculate to figure out what the new slot count is? Well, we need to take total slot count of the inventory minus our old bag dot slots. Okay. So the old bag's slot count will be reduced from the total slot count, because we have a total slot count of 20, for example, or 40, because we have two 20 slot bags. We dequip the old bag, so we are down to a count of 20 after that, right? Because we reduced it by 20. And what's the actual slot count? Well, we need to add the new bag slots. So we have our total count, then we dequip one bag, and we equip the next one. And by doing that, we have the new slot count. We know how many slots we will have when we're done swapping these two bags. So with that done, we can figure out if it's enough, if this slot count is enough for us to swap around. We can do that by saying, well, our new slot count minus my... Okay, so we only have empty slot count and we have total slot count. We actually need to know how many full slots we have to figure out if this is okay to do or not. So we can actually just create a new property. Let's see, I want to add it right there. So public integer, my full slot count. Okay, so we need to know how many full slots we have in the inventory as well, because we need to know if it's okay to do the swap, because the full slot count can't be negative, for example. Or not the full slot count, I mean the what's it called, the total slot count minus the full slot count can't be negative. So we return my total slots, the total amount of slots we have, minus my empty slot count. Okay, so by taking the total amount of slots and reducing it, or subtracting, so we take the total slot count and subtract the empty slot count, and then we'll get the total amount of full slots we have in the inventory. Okay. So we can go back here. Let's see where we're writing, right there. And back here we can say my full slot count, and so my new slot count minus my full slot count has to be larger or equal to 0. If my new slot count, if I swap the bags and I take the new slot count minus the full slot count, if that's larger than 0, well, then it's okay for me to swap the bags around, because then I don't have a negative number and there's room enough for all the items in one of the bags, or both bags, Okay, so with that done, we can start to do the swap. So do swap right here. How do you swap it? Well, we have a list, and in that list we're going to put items, because we need to put the items from one of the bags somewhere. So we're going to write bag items here, and it's equal to the old bag.my bag script .get items. Just as we did before when we were swapping the bags, equipping the bags by hand. So this is a storage of all the items in the bag we're swapping, so we can make sure we can put them back into the inventory when we're done doing the swap. Okay. When we have stored a reference to all the items, so we have saved them, we can start removing the old bag. So remove bag, old bag. So now the old bag is removed from the inventory for the bag bar. With that done, we will have to say new bag dot use. So now we're using the new bag to equip it. Okay. So there's a lot of things we need to take into consideration here, but I think that we will do it one by one so we can see that everything works. Okay, so this is the swap, and here we are taking the items, removing the old one, and using the new bag. So let's try to save this actually, and let's try to run this so that we can see if it works. This is run if we go into the slot script right there, and we go to onPointerClick, and inside onPointerClick we will have to write some extra code. So we're already checking if something's empty, and in here we have to make a new if statement, and down here we'll have to make an else. Inside the else statement we will take these two lines of code and put, and this might be a little confusing, but let's see, I'm just going to zoom out to show you where it is. It's on this line where we have if the from slot is null and is empty. Inside that scope right here, we will have to write some extra code. And before we only had this code here, but we'll have to change it so that we have an if statement and an else. Because if our from slot is null and it isn't empty. Well, that's when we want to do the swap, right? Okay, so in this if statement, we'll have to check if my hand script that my instance that my movable isn't null. So if I have something in my hand and hand script that my instance that my movable is a bag. Okay. So if I have something in my hand and that thing I have in my hand is a bag, well, what then? Well, then we need to check what is on this slot, because if I have a bag in my hand, let's say let's see here, I equip this and I do like this again. I have this one in my hand and I click on a slot with a bag right there, like I'm doing right there. Well, what then? Well, then I need to check if it's a bag I'm clicking on before I do anything. So if my item is a bag, so I'm checking whatever I'm clicking on is a bag, right? So I'm checking if this one I'm clicking on right there is a bag before I do anything. That's the check. Okay, if that's the case, I can say inventory script dot my instance dot swap bags. I need to swap the old bag. So my old bag is the hand script that my instance dot my movable. That's the old bag, and I need to take it as a bag. And that's why it's very important that I'm checking that it's a bag here before I do this as bag. And then I'm going to say, well, I need to swap with something. Well, then I can say my item as bag. Go. You can refactor these if statements to want. Maybe you want this part to be down here as well, so you're checking if something is bag. At the same time, it's basically up to you, but I'm just gonna put it up like this for now. Let's see here. So if this is the case, then I would like to do something. Let's see, I need one more parentheses there, I guess. No, I don't. I need to stamp it like that. Yeah. Okay, so then I do the swap. So now we can actually check if the swap works, because we're checking, or we're trying to swap something whenever we click on a bag. So let's try to see what happens here. So this is not complete yet, so it will have some errors. Let's see here. We equip a bag. So now I have one bag here and a bag here. I shift click on this one down here and click on the bag and see what happened. I equip the bag in the next slot here, and I still have my bag in my hand, and now I can just place bags everywhere in my inventory. But some of it worked, right? I clicked on a bag to equip it here in the bag bar, but it's equipped on the wrong place. So let's see here. We need to go back to our swap items, because now we need to write some more code to make it work. So first of all, I would like to add the old bag. So now I'm using the new bag right there. And when I'm done that, I would like to say add item old bag. So the old bag we have equipped needs to be put in the right place inside the inventory. Let's try that. Add an item, and I do like this, and the old bag should be this one here. Okay, we can't really see that because we're not done. Okay, so I'm adding the old bag. Besides that, I need to drop whatever I have in my hand. So I need to say hand script dot my instance dot drop, and it's say my instance dot from slot null, no matter what. My from slot always needs to be set to null, so that when I click something, it's not going to be able to click everywhere in the inventory to generate an unlimited amount of bags. So let's see what happens now. So I pick up my bag and click here, and now I drop my bag, but it's still equipped in the wrong place. As you can see, this is a null reference exception because I click on a bag that doesn't exist, and this one is equipped on the wrong button, as you can see. One more thing we'll have to make sure that works is the fact that if I do like this and I take this item here, my potion, well, what's going to happen with that potion? Because I'm going to take this one and equip here, and then it just disappeared. The potion disappears out of nowhere because we didn't make sure that the potion will be placed back in the inventory. So we need to make sure that all the items in the bag that we are dequipping will be placed back in the inventory. So we also need to do something about that, and we can do that after we say new bag.use. So for each item in my bag items, remember we created this list here to have reference to all the items so we can put them back in the inventory. And then we say if item isn't new bag. So if the item isn't the bag itself we are equipping, then we would like to put it back in the inventory. So why do we have that check? Well, there's a chance that the new bag is placed in the old bag, right? And if I do the swap, I don't want the new bag to go back in the inventory after I equip it, because then I just duplicated my bag. So this is to make sure that we don't get a duplicate bag. So this is make sure there's no duplicates. So we save, and let's see what happens now if we run it. I equip my bag, I put my potion over here, get a new bag, and see let's try to put the new bag in the old bag. We switch here, like so. So now the old bag is there, and our potion has been moved right there. So now it works when we dequip something, or at least the items works. But as you can see, there's still some problems with the back bar. So let's just fix that before we end this. Yeah, we need to go into our add bag function, because right now we have an add bag function somewhere here that just takes in a bag and puts it in the first empty slot there is. Well, in our case, we will need to know what kind of bag button we just swap with, so that we can put the bag on that specific button instead of just putting it on the next empty one. So we need to create an overload of add bag. An overload is when you create another function with the same name, just with a different set of parameters. So add bag here just takes in a bag, and it takes in a bag button. So basically this function, instead of just doing like the other add function does, it loops through all the bag buttons and places the bag on the first empty one it finds. Well, this one takes a bag and places it on a specific bag button instead. So we say bags.add bag, and we say bag button, because we have the specific button, dot my bag, I think it's called, my bag equals bag. So we assign the bags to a specific bag button now. So with this done, we can actually place it on the correct button now. Where do we need to use this? Well, we need to use it in the bag script. Let's see here, not bag script, just bag. And in the use function here, we have to say, well, in our case, if our bag already has a bag button, then we will need to equip the bag on that bag button. Okay, might be a little confusing, but let's see here. So if my bag button is null, so if the bag doesn't have a bag button set already, then we just equip the bag normally with add bags and adds it on the first empty bag button. Else we say that we want to add it to a specific bag button. This comma my bag button. So now we are calling the overloaded function of add bag, where we tell it that it needs to equip this bag on this specific bag button. So how do a bag even get a bag button? How do we know when to use this part instead of this part? Well, this is actually done inside the inventory script on the swap bag function, because inside the swap bag function we can actually set the bag button, which means the new bag we want to equip, well, before we equip it, we can just say new bag that my bag button equals old bag dot my bag button, because the old bag had a bag button. When we equipped the old bag, it got assigned to a bag button, and we can actually use this bag button to assign the new bag. So because that this new bag has a bag button, whenever we use the new bag, it will jump down here and use this new add function, which takes it in the back button and equips it on the correct button. So I hope it isn't too confusing, but there's a lot of back and button and everything in that sentence. So let's see, we have a bag and we have another bag here. Let's see if I pick this one up and I place it here, then they just swap places. So it's hard to see, right, that anything happens. So let's see here, I have written in my code here, where do we do that? Input.get, yeah. If I press get key down J, I will create a bag with 8 slots. So let's try that, right? So I have one bag with 20 and one bag with 8. So if I pick this one up and click right there, I just swap my bag to an 8 slot bag instead. And of course I can put my items over here and I can do the swap and the items still exist in my inventory. And again I can do the swap and there we go. So we have a small bag now. So one thing we need to do is the fact that if I pick this one up and click down here, I just open and close it. I can't do the swap the other way right now. I can only swap from back bar to inventory, not from inventory to back bar. So let's just add that line of code so that we can do that. So to do this, we have to jump into the back button script and we have to go to the on pointer click function. In here, we have to make this one into an else if, this one left shift, and then we have to make an if statement above here. So this if statement needs to say that, well, if inventory script dot my instant dot from slot isn't null and my hand script, it's called hand script, just called hand script dot my instance that my movable isn't null and my hand script that my instance that movable is a bag. So we already done this in the other script, so this is not new. We check if we have something, if our from script is null, we are carrying something, and we check if whatever we have in our hand is there, and we're checking that it's a bag, whatever we have in our hand. With that done, we can actually just go ahead and say, well, if my bag, so this is the back button, if my bag isn't null, so if we have a bag equipped already, then we need to say inventory script that my instant swap bag. I would like to swap my bag with the hand script's bag. Okay. So if there's a bag equipped on this back button, we take the swap bags function we created, we take my bag and swap it with the bag we're carrying in our hand. Okay. So let's just save this. There's one more thing I would like to do in this video before we end it. I know it's a little long, I'm sorry about that. But let's see here. There. Where is it? J. So we have this bag here. And now I can take my bag from my inventory and click there to swap them. Take the bag from the inventory and click there to swap them. So you can see now it works this way, from inventory to back bar and from back bar to inventory. But we can't press the others here. I can't pick this one up and equip it here by clicking. So there's a few more lines of code we need so that we can pick up a bag and just put it somewhere here, anywhere we want. Now I just dropped it on the ground, but see here. Okay, where do we need to write that? Well, we can make a simple else statement here and say, well, we are going to create a new bag because this function here is executed when I click a bag button. So we already established that we have a bag in our hand and we're carrying it around. And here we established that, well, we have a bag equipped already. If we don't have a bag equipped, this code down here is going to run. And then we're going to say, well, I would like to take my hand script, just like this hand script, that my instance, that my movable. I'd like to take that movable and cast it to a bag. Because I already know it's a bag, because I had this check up here. I know it's a bag. There we go. Then I take the back button and set it equal to this because I equip it. Then I take the bag and use it. And oh wait, it's a function of course. And then I take my bag and say it equal to the temporary bag we just created. And then I say hand script that my instance dot drop. And then I say inventory script dot my instance dot from slot is null. There we go. So we have a bag in our hand. We click an empty bag button. We know it's empty here. We instantiate, or we take the bag we're carrying in the hand. We set the back button equal to this one, so we know which one to equip it. We click the use function and set the bag on this back button. And remember, because we write this line of code here, the use function is going to call this line that equips it on a specific back button. So with that saved, I think we can go in here and take a bag and equip it on a specific button now. As you can see, we can just equip it on whatever button we want to. There we go. So that's what I want to do in this video. I know it was long, sorry about that. I hope that you managed to do everything and understand everything I did. So thank you very much for watching. Thanks for watching my video. Please remember that InScope Studios is a community founded page, so please consider clicking the support link on the screen to see how you can support me and get something back in return.